Hello, I am your host, Kathy Chester, and welcome to the Move It or Lose It podcast, a podcast about all things that move the mind, body, and soul. The Move It or Lose It podcast is for information, awareness, and inspirational purposes only. I am not a doctor, and I don't even play one on TV, so please consult your doctor before making any medical decisions. The views expressed by advertisers, guests, or contributors are their opinions and not necessarily the views of the Move It or Lose It podcast. Hey guys, so you may remember this beautiful woman. I've had Roxanne on just a few times and we've done some adventures together. So today we're having Roxanne on for a very different thing. We are really wanting to highlight something that Roxanne is doing and has been doing. And if you know me, you know that I love entrepreneurs. And so this is something that Roxanne has been doing for a while. And I don't think that I could even express how proud I am of her and the work she does. And so I'm not going to give you much more because I want her to talk about it. So Roxanne, thank you so much for being on here. And you
Thank
know how much I
you.
love you. We've got a
Yes. Well,
lot
and
of
it's,
stuff.
yes, we connected because of the same really crappy club, but then the
Yeah,
connection, of meaning of having a mess, but then the
right.
connection went so much deeper when we knew that we were both four other women succeeding
For
on their
sure.
terms, having their own goals and reaching for them and just living
Yeah,
life outside the box differently. So
absolutely.
thank you for inviting me. This is cool.
Yes, for 100%. And I think that you're in the women's group that I lead, and you are such a huge part in that because with so many new women coming in, I just honestly did a TikTok, and there was a woman that was literally diagnosed a week prior to me
Oh,
talking. And you never know on those things. At first, we've talked about that before. When they asked me to do TikTok, I was like, what? No, I'm not doing dances and jumps, but maybe I would, but maybe I can do that. But I was so really just pleased to see how many things are happening in that world too. You get stuck into one where you're like on Instagram or you're doing Facebook and you forget the other things. And then you look on and it's just this like, wow, there's more stuff going on. So it's been, I
and when
think,
you
at
put
least,
yourself out there, I think one of the
yes,
lessons I've learned is I too was like, oh, I'm not going to get on TikTok. And then I found amazing community on there. And when
yes,
you put yourself out there in a new way, it doesn't have to be on socials, but go to, a meet and greet, go do something,
right.
go pitch yourself, right, to somebody,
Yes,
which I've had to get really comfortable doing.
yeah,
Yes, you're going to sometimes face rejection, but you're also going to
right.
meet people that change your life and you're going to
Yeah,
step into opportunities that change who you
right.
are. And that is what I'm
Yes,
about. 100% I'm about that.
absolutely. Well, you're
But
always
it's
going to
risk.
find that.
It's risk.
Yes, because you will. I mean, we both have been told no. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time and I've been told no. And honestly, the more you do it, the less it hurts because you're like, okay, whatever. You obviously don't know how amazing I actually am. So I'm going to
Well, and
move forward
I've also learned sometimes it's just not aligned with me then. Right?
100%.
I only want to be in spaces as a 40-plus-year-old grown-ass woman. I only want to be in spaces that I can show up fully as myself and you can show up fully as
Yes.
yourself. And
Yeah,
I want to celebrate each other, which is, what spurred this conversation for you to invite me on
exactly.
here anyway. But I'm just not interested in making myself smaller in spaces
Yeah.
anymore
Yeah.
to make other
And I
people
remember
comfortable.
doing that for so many years. And we talked about this a lot. And I know so many women can relate to this, even if you don't have an autoimmune disease. But I remember having MS and having three kids and being a single mom and being told as a trainer back then, as a little trainer, not managing or anything like that, like,
Right?
oh no, you have to do this perfect. And no one really cared that I was sick. They were just like, no, you have to do this box jump, burpee, come back, flip. I'm just kidding, but then do it all in a spotlight and then smile. And I was like, can I do that? But it wasn't like, if you can't, we understand. It was like, you will if you
Yeah.
want this job.
Yeah.
And so there was always that pressure of no one really getting, what it is that we were struggling with.
Well,
So in
and
some way,
part of the problem with that is you become so unrelatable if everything you do
mhm,
is this perfect thing. To me,
right.
the messiness on the journey is actually who I'm becoming in that process,
Yes.
is the story, is
Yes.
actually what I'm inviting people to be a part of. And it makes you so much more approachable and
Yeah.
relatable to other people, because they're like, okay, like everyone on their way to being great has had to get over fears, has had to start as a
Yes.
beginner. Like, I think we just need to normalize looking stupid,
Oh
because
yeah.
if you're going to step into entrepreneurship, you're going to look dumb. You're
Yeah.
going to be a
For
beginner,
sure.
and it's
Yeah.
okay. And I just wish there were more people, especially more women,
Yeah.
normalizing that and being like, hey,
Yes.
come, and then, and then let's celebrate each other on the journey, and
Right.
not be so competitive, but be
Yeah.
like lifting each other up.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to go back to that because I want to talk to you about how to deal with some of the things that sometimes are more women who are shy, not like us, because obviously we don't have that issue, but women that are more tentative and women that are younger that are starting into this. So I want to go
Yeah.
back to that. Um, but what I do want to talk about is I just happened to catch your beautiful face, which I never get to do. It was just in between clients, and one client was running a little bit late. And obviously, if they know me, they know that I work with people with autoimmune diseases and stuff like that to help them move their body so they don't feel so stuck. And
So
that's,
good.
such a big thing because our body, especially here, it's so cold. And it's like our bodies just get so like this and nothing moves.
Yes.
And the last thing we feel like doing sometimes is getting our body moving, but we know that it just hurts so much when we don't. And
Yes.
so
I love that you do this and
it,
lead the
it's
way.
it's so important. And I think getting the fear gone, because we have so much of that. And so now when I have clients, they know, they'll text man or woman and say, I don't think I can go do a workout. And when they say a big workout, it is not like burpees. It's a very gentle, MS thing. But, there's times where the stress is just here. It's like, can
Yeah.
we do some more stretching? Can we do that? And can we do some breathing? And so I think there's times for that we need that. And I think it's so important that we're open to that. But last week when I had that break, I was watching you and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm like, look at you. And so talk to us about that. First, to go back a little bit and talk about where you started in your
Yeah.
entrepreneuring and why and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like, again, don't ever compare. We hear this all the time, but don't compare, your chapter 1 or 2 to someone else's chapter 50. And
Exactly.
I have had to remind myself so much. I still have to remind myself of that, because there's also this thing sometimes we have of like, we're consuming, like, especially on social media, consuming content. But if it
Yes.
makes you feel gross, then,
Yeah.
or it makes you feel jealous, like if it makes you feel, like comparison traps, stuff like
Right.
that, you need to investigate your own motives and your own
Yes.
self. But you also might need to curate that, because, like, if it's only perfection that you're seeing,
Mhm.
that's just not the real story. So
Right. That's so
my
good,
my
Roxanne.
well, and
Say
my
that
real
again.
yeah,
Say it again because
my
people miss
my
that.
my real story is that 10 years ago, I
Mhm.
just celebrated my 10-year anniversary of my
I saw
LLC. So I
that.
am,
Happy
yeah,
birthday.
thanks, yeah. How Images LLC. And I did, I'm a photographer and visual storyteller. And I started that with a baby on my hip. Like, my son is about the same age as that. And it was insane. I mean, I was like editing at night, but I had this dream and I went live. You saw my live, because
Yeah.
now I'm seeing so much of the fruit of like the energy and labor. But I
Yeah.
always want to tell and remind people that, like, start small. So, like, I
Yeah.
hope anyone listening to this, right? If you have a big dream, or even a
Yeah.
small dream, like something you want to
Right.
do, to, like, maybe you just want to start a side hustle to earn enough money to take your kids to Disney World,
Right.
whatever it is, I don't care. Don't let the world tell you that that's not possible.
Yeah.
And don't let your initial failure tell you that you're disqualified, because actually
Yes.
failure is what qualifies you to keep going
Amen.
and to be an
Amen.
entrepreneur. So I started this, I had, like, I have 4 children. I had lots of other things, reasons why maybe I couldn't do this. Now, I
Right.
also want to say, full disclosure, like, I also, because I have multiple sclerosis, I have the luxury, and I realize the privilege of having a husband that works full time, that carries my
Yeah.
insurance. So I could
Yeah.
kind of have the
As I
gift.
do too. So I
Yes.
do realize that we have
Yes.
that.
And I realize that whenever I'm talking, like I have so many friends that are single moms. Actually, one of the people I do this thing that we're talking about with is a single mom. So I realize the great privilege I have. And MS in a way has driven me to be successful because
Mhm.
I was a teacher and then I lived
Yeah.
overseas in East Africa doing development work for a number of years. And then I moved home. And after my kids were little, I just did not want to go back
No,
to,
you were married when you did that?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been married for almost like 24 years. It's
Yeah, because I
crazy.
was like, you've been married for a long time, so you
Yes,
had to.
yes. We
Cool.
always we always joke we got married when we were fetuses. But we were
I
young.
tell
But
my kids that because I was so young. I'm
that's
like,
so funny.
I was born and then I had you. They're
Right.
like,
5 minutes later.
yeah,
That's not how medical stuff
no,
works. But
no.
anyway, so I knew that I didn't want to, I knew that I had gifts and I knew that
Yeah,
I had things to offer and I knew that I had things that I wanted to learn and grow and refine. And I wanted things for myself too, like
right.
something that I could try and do and
Mhm.
be successful at. And I think that that's okay. Like a lot of times I feel like, especially when women become mothers, it becomes their whole entire identity. And I'm not saying that that is not a wonderful thing.
Right.
But it is also okay if you need something else too. Like if I always
Yeah.
wanted my kids, like I remember the first trip I took as a photographer to India. My kids, like my husband and my little kids, little kids, we're talking one was still a baby, drove me to O'Hare and dropped me off, and they're like
Uh-huh.
crying and sobbing in
Oh
the
yeah.
car. And I felt all this mom guilt, but then, when
Yeah.
I felt as soon as I got there and I was experiencing this and I was learning with my mentor and growing so
Yeah.
much, I'm like, I'm so grateful that they actually have a model and a woman as a
Yes.
mom who shows them that it's okay to still pursue who you are,
Yes.
if
100%.
that takes you outside of the home.
Yes.
And sometimes it won't. There's no,
Right.
again, I am not here to tell people what they should or should not do.
No, it's
I'm
not a
just here.
roadmap. You're letting
Yes.
them know that it's okay to be
Yes.
you.
And I think like that has been really game changing for me
Yeah.
is just being able to admit and to be okay and own my own journey and story. So
Yeah.
I just started really part-time and MS truthfully drove me to success in both
Yeah.
in my other because I have diversified income streams at this point
Yeah.
and I I wanted success and here's why because I knew excuse me that I couldn't go back necessarily to a 9 to 5 standing on my feet all day teaching
Right.
nine to three.
Absolutely.
Um, excuse me. And I knew that
Well, you guys got to know Roxanne's coming on with a bad cold tonight. So she's kind of being a rock star.
I am so sorry, guys. Okay. So I knew that I did not want, or I could not really do that kind of like, even with photography, I couldn't take not
Right.
nonstop back-to-back photo shoots. So
Right.
um I really wanted to find success so that my life could be my time freedom was more of an
Yeah,
issue for me. So
absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that because I think it can be so difficult to try to find that balance. And when the kids, kids are small, I went to India. I think that we talked about that. And again, same feeling. The kids were like, well, why? And I already had MS then. And they were like, you can't go. I'm like, but I can. And I knew it was something I was supposed to do. And again, I think when I got back, it was such, and through all the years where the kids were smaller, and I had MS from the time they were very, very small. And so I think it was, well, one, since they were born, but I think it was important for them to see that again, it can take you down for a time, but it does not own me. It doesn't change who I am as a person. Yeah, there can be times where I take steroids and it may make me like the Incredible Hulk, but it's not going to change me as your mom. It's not going to change the dreams that I have. And I
well,
think
and
just
I
like you
think like
said,
I always say, it's part of my journey, but it is not
yes,
my identity.
yes,
I really believe
and
God has created me with
yes,
so much purpose. And I also want to say to anybody who's listening too, like you have amazing skills and gifts. But
mhm,
this is the way life works. If you sit on them and don't explore them, don't utilize them,
yeah,
you will not grow in them. Like
yeah,
there's no like we don't get to successful places and
Right.
by the way, we define success for ourselves. Like for me,
Yeah.
it's not a money amount, it's being present and having
Yeah.
more flexibility in my time and doing work that I love.
Yes. Isn't that
Um,
interesting, Roxanne,
yeah.
how every country defines it?
Oh, yeah,
You're
so
not going to
different.
go to India and have
Well, and
success.
living in Africa too, like
Yes.
ruined me for like, I don't want to do the American grind. Like
Yeah.
that is not what I want.
Yeah. That's how
But
I
like
felt.
you don't get to figure out what your gifts and what you're good at and your skills by planning.
Right.
You only figure it out by, there is no other way than showing up for yourself,
Yeah.
being consistent and failing. And
Yeah.
I heard this definition of integrity like changed my life. I'm gonna tell
Oh,
you.
I'm
I
going to
heard,
want to write it down.
yeah, I'm like, I did not come up with this, but I don't even remember
Yeah.
where I heard it. But the definition of integrity is not the way we normally think about it is like our reputation with other people,
Right.
right? But the true integrity is your reputation with yourself. So if
Yeah. I like
you
that.
say you're going to do something, because this is the truth, I can fool anybody. Anybody can fool anybody, put something out there. They can
Sure.
really be a liar or a horrible person behind the scenes, whatever.
Yeah.
Your integrity, so other people might judge you or not know you or not know you. You're
Right.
not responsible for other people's opinions of you. Your
Right.
integrity is really your reputation with myself. And we talked, I think,
Right.
a little bit about this when I was training
Yeah.
for the marathon, because I was like,
Right.
I'm the only one that knows if I'm showing up for that. Really.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's just, what is
I
cool is
love
that
that.
what you saw on my live was talking about these things called styled sessions,
Mhm.
which we have our last one in Illinois because I am moving. I live right now currently right outside Chicago. I'm moving to North Carolina, and I'm really scared about that. It's going to be
I
another
know. I
big,
was like, you're in Chicago. I'd come right there to see you. And now
yeah,
you're
it's like,
moving further, but that's okay.
yeah, another big vulnerable like leap.
Yeah.
But
Like, wait. So this
I'm
one is in March.
yes, and we've
Okay.
done. I want to say this is our fourth or fifth one.
And I'm
It,
getting to this one.
oh, I hope so. I mean, it
I
already
am.
sold out. It already sold out. So,
I'm getting there.
but message me and we'll figure something out. But
Yes.
it started with two of my dear friends that I met through, like, we're all three of us are brand ambassadors for like our favorite skincare, hair care. So we met, but they are also other entrepreneurs. So one is a hairstylist, one is a photographer, and she makes props, and I'm a photographer. So we started just kind of envisioning what it would look like in a world where female entrepreneurs were more collaborative than they were
Yes.
competitive.
Yeah.
And that there was enough room for all of us to be successful.
Yeah.
And what would it look like to truly show up and be for each other?
Yeah.
So we started planning these styled sessions. And this is why I shared this story. And this is why it makes me cry when I think about it, because this one sold out in like an hour and a half.
I love that.
Our first one, we couldn't even drag people in the door. And we were like, we were charging like nothing. I mean, I'm embarrassed about how, low it was at that point. But this is what I
that's
know.
so important
Yes,
because
and
people have to know that.
That's why I share this, because it is to normalize messiness and starting, and it looks like a failure. But this is what I have to say. If you know something needs to exist in the world, hang on to that vision and pursue it, because the right people will find you if you keep putting your message out there. And if you over serve and love people and make them feel great, right? Like I'm an entrepreneur because I love serving my clients, my customers. I want them to feel amazing. And so it was like, this vision, and Natalie and Tara were like crazy enough to go in on this with me. And we started doing these photo shoots where you come, you get your hair styled by my friend who's an amazing hairstylist. And then you get styled by my other friend, Natalie, who's amazing with style. She has like a really, big Instagram presence about style.
Yeah.
And then I do photos, but the headshots isn't even the right word. They are so fun. It's like, you change clothes times. We have like
and it's
all
so
kinds
important
of props.
too.
Yeah. And
it's a big thing for entrepreneuring, because that's what we always need. I'm always told, like, I need more shots of you. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, and anybody who's a content creator or an entrepreneur, like even me, when I was first starting, I was like, oh, but it's not about me. It's about my photos.
Right.
This is the truth. People can choose a million photographers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my clients come to me because they feel like they know me and they feel like they can already trust me. And it's vulnerable to get in front of a camera. And so I'm never going to ask a client to do something I'm not willing to do. So I do
100%.
content shoots all the time. We have a content
Yeah.
meetup next week in Chicagoland. So we're doing something, it's free. Anybody can come. We can create content together. So um
Interesting.
I just
So do
I
you
love
ever
this.
do that on Zoom? Do you ever do something like
No,
that?
we
Okay.
didn't, because you have to be in person to create content.
Yeah.
Like we're like literally doing the cinematic video, and we're taking shots of people doing stuff, and we're
Yeah.
like helping them come up with ideas. Like the last one we had, it was so fun. And there were realtors there. There were all kinds of people,
Yeah.
people in network marketing, people that were starting a finance business, hairstylists, so many different kinds of people there. And what we did was come up with in real time, like pieces of content they could post right now in their social media.
Oh,
And
love that.
yeah,
Because
it
I've
was,
done that before, Roxanne. I've been in like where it's all women supporting men.
yeah,
I'm sure you have too. And then all of a sudden you're like, is this or is it? And you
yeah.
realize, that some of the women are, but they're not. And it's only the ones that have connections that are really good friends. And then you're like, wait, so they're not really, it's just, a couple here and a couple there. And that's
Oh,
so
got it.
different than, what
Yeah,
you're talking about and the idea, because I really believe it has to be a passion that you have to really want to see other women succeed and the
yes,
understanding that we all have. And we talked about this before too, that I love being in those meetings where you see someone come on the screen or, face to face now that we're not COVID, and be able to like see them just feel like I really don't have anything to offer. And then all of a sudden you've got, your planning team, you've got women around and you're like, well, what kind of things do you like to do? What kind of things spark your interest? What have people told you that you were good at?
yeah.
In high school and college, things like that you don't
Well,
even
and
think about now.
if you're struggling to feel that way, I would argue you probably need to change up your circle,
Yeah.
because and not like ditch everybody or anything like that, but
Right.
like the conversation is different when you're in a room of women that want to see each other win. That's
Yes.
period. The converse, or thrive or
Yes.
heal, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're in a room of women that want to see each other heal or thrive in life or have healthy relationships, have healthy, like physical bodies, healthy sex
Yeah.
life, healthy what, the conversation is different. It's not
Yes.
about complaining, dragging down. And for me, it was like such a light bulb thing. After we did the first two of these style sessions, we started asking for feedback, and the women wrote back and they said great things about the photos. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't
Right.
believe Roxanne got so many amazing photos. I loved every one of them. But
Hmm.
this is the part that made me cry. Every single person wrote something back. And this is all like feedback on my website, but
Yeah.
I felt so encouraged. I felt seen.
Mhm.
I felt so celebrated. I felt beautiful. The hype squad made me feel amazing. Like we pump music, we're cheering for you, we're screaming, we're like hyping people up. I mean, we're just
Yeah.
having fun. We're doing
I
dancing
love that.
videos in between. Like it's just about having fun and not taking ourselves so
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
And this is why for me the root of entrepreneurship really matters, is because I think the world needs more people fully alive,
Hmm.
thriving, working towards healing, not
Right.
perfect, admitting
Right.
of their vulnerabilities, but believing that those are actually beautiful.
Yeah.
But also women that know their strengths. There's nothing
Yes.
scarier to me than a woman who feels like she has no options. And there's
100%.
nothing scarier to me than a woman who doesn't know her value, her worth,
How
how
many
gifted.
times have you
Yeah.
asked that? And women are
Yes.
like, I don't
Yes.
know.
And this is it. You show up differently in the world when you know your value and
Yes.
worth. And this is not about arrogance. I think a lot of women, especially
No.
if you have church stuff, and I love the church, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of baggage that comes to women sometimes
Oh,
about
yeah.
stepping into purpose or value. Like you've been taught that like
Yes.
acting like this false humility is actually what you need to be doing. And I'm sorry,
Right.
I don't think that that's true. I think God, as long as I am utilizing the gifts to serve
Right.
people and to bless the world and to be like live fully alive and engage with others,
Right.
God gave me those gifts. It's a
Absolutely.
shame on me if I hide them. Like I need
Absolutely.
to be using them. And I want to just encourage other women. You have so many things, but this is it. This is the bottom thing that I always say. If you see other people in your life that you think are fearless or like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, she's taking all these risks, she's being an entrepreneur, she's going out and trying this thing. First of all, I promise you, if you get to know them, they've failed a million times.
Yes.
Secondly, They are not fearless because they were born that way, or they're just more confident than you, or
Right.
anything.
Right.
They appear more fearless because they have stepped into doing things afraid.
Yes.
And I went live on when you saw that live video, and
Yeah.
I was literally crying because after we did this one time, we felt like we should give up. We're like, okay, this is
Yeah.
stupid. Nobody came. Maybe it's only us that thought this needed to exist. And then we're like, no, we're
Yeah.
gonna keep doing it. And that's why I tell the story, because it's now it's quote unquote a success,
Right.
but and people are telling their friends, and it's like, it's so exciting. And I hope to
Right.
bring it to where I'm moving, but it's
You
only that.
will.
I hope so. Yeah. It's only that way. I got to find partners in crime, because I'm
I
like,
know, right?
I'm so collaborative. So if you're in North Carolina, Raleigh area, hit me up.
I'm
Um,
thinking about that right now. Like, hey, who can I collaborate right now and
yeah.
do this?
But like you have to just do things scared. And I think as
Yes.
women, we just need to normalize like hyping each other up, and not in a frenemy fake way, but in a
Hmm.
like, Kathy, I am so glad that you are doing what you're doing in the world of like
Yeah.
helping people with MS know that there's so much empowerment and movement. And I celebrate you. And here's some
Yeah.
ideas you could use if you want. And
Right.
what can I do to encourage you? And let me share your
Yes.
podcast. Like, true forness, because
Right.
just this is the thing. If you see another woman that's successful, that does not mean that you cannot be successful. That's
Right.
a scarcity mindset, right?
Right.
An abundance mindset says, look at what she's doing. That's amazing that she's uniquely gifted.
Yes.
I'm uniquely gifted. How can
Right.
I do not what she's doing,
Right.
but something else that
Exactly.
makes me feel alive?
Exactly. 100%. And I think that's so, so well said, Roxanne. And I think that that is such a big part of, like, what would you say? Let's role play a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm coming to you and I've been diagnosed. I've been sick for now, let's say 5 years. Okay. I've got kids. I've now been told I'm going to have to leave my job that I really, really like, but there's still so much I have within me that wants to do
Yes.
things, but I have just been beaten down. I've just been
Yeah.
beaten down that I feel like I'm no good to my kids. I feel like I can't make any money. I feel like I'm not just sick, but I've turned 80 years old because I'm now stuck in the
Mm.
house. I might as well just knit. I don't know. This is my life, I guess now. So if there's a spark, what advice would you give to that person that may not have a clue, but is just feeling really depressed and feeling like
Yeah.
there's really nothing else to do anymore? It's just, I guess I just sit here.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's so hard. I mean,
because you've got to hear that, I hear it so
yeah, yeah.
often.
Well, and I hear like you can't do that. You shouldn't have done that, or
Yeah.
but I don't know that I would give advice as much as I would like literally sit on the floor with you and cry with you and say,
Mm.
yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Your whole life has changed. And this is not your fault,
Right.
but it is your responsibility now. What do you
Yeah.
do with this? Like for me, I felt I have been diagnosed a little bit over 5 years, and
Yeah.
I did. There was I was just talking to another woman who's newly diagnosed, and I said, "Listen, girl, I was in a fog for about a year."
Yeah.
So I guess what I would first say is just give yourself some grace,
Yeah.
because it is a very life-changing thing.
Right.
And right, not but and life is not over.
Right.
You have so much to offer and give, and you have so much to gain. Like you have so
Yeah.
much to receive. And I
Yes.
think when we disengage, right, from community, or from like also I just took a brain health class that was life changing. It was so good.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
oh my gosh, that class. But one of the things I talked about was like the people that have the best prognosis with MS are very physically active, right?
Yes.
They are doing what they can, right?
Yeah.
What they can. It doesn't mean you have to run a marathon. It just means
Right.
what you can do, you're showing up and doing it. I go to the gym
Yes.
5 to 6 days a week. That is a
Yeah,
non-negotiable.
girl.
That is a
Yes.
non-negotiable for me.
Right.
And like I had so much dizziness this week that I couldn't do
Yeah.
any of the burpees, and I couldn't go down at all. I told my kettlebell
Right.
instructor, I'm not being lazy today. I have so much dizziness. And she's like,
Right. Right.
that's totally fine. I was joking with her. I was like, I didn't drink anything, but I feel like I'm
Right.
drunk.
Right.
But that,
Right.
thank you, MS. Thank you, MS. But
Yeah.
show up and do what you can do. And then
Absolutely.
also you were built for community. So find people that are making a different way in the world,
Yes.
right? That are like,
I love
and
that.
the people that
Yeah.
have the best prognosis with MS are physically active, but they are
Yeah.
also mentally active.
Absolutely. I was going to
They
say, get
they
your
are
mind
doing,
moving.
yes, they are thinking, and there's so, listen,
Hmm.
you can do online courses. I was a
Yeah.
teacher. I taught myself photography. I
Yeah.
taught myself photography through online classes and YouTube. Like,
Oh yeah.
and now
That's how
that's
I
my,
became a life coach. I mean, I was like,
yeah,
hello, I was a pastor's wife for, 16
yeah,
years.
yeah,
I've already done that.
yeah,
So it's like, you really have to, again, you have to just go after it, go out. And
right.
it doesn't have to be, go out and do, there's so many courses now you can go take from home.
Yeah.
And
And
so
I
I
would just say,
agree.
like, I just don't believe that God brings things into my life or your life or anyone's life to disempower them or make them
Yeah,
their lives smaller. There
agreed.
are very big hurdles in this. So I'm not saying it's
Definitely.
like a smooth road. No, I'm actually saying
Yeah.
the opposite. I'm like, there are very hard things.
Yeah.
And like that journey and that story is part of what you're gonna find out so much more about who you are.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
I just
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Move It or Lose It podcast, where you can again find us every Tuesday and also wherever you like your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Join us on that. And we can't wait to see you again. We're going to have a lot of exciting guests and working together. And as always, you'll hear us say at the end of every podcast, we are stronger together. So let's do it. Let's become stronger together. Have a great day.